Hey, welcome to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset Podcast, powered by the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship. I am Mark McNees, your host. And in studio today, we have the founder and CEO of SMP and the host of Road to Retail, Tracey Priest. Hey, Tracy, thank you for coming in today. And how are you doing? And tell us a little bit about your company and what you do.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. So I'm a sales consultant in the consumer packaged good industry. Started that right out of FSU at the Quaker Oats Company. And I help small emerging brands with their sales initiatives and getting on the shelf at retailers.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, and looking forward to getting into that and how you got into that. But before we do that, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you and just where you're from, what state or country, and what your upbringing was. Were you filthy rich? Were you digging for cabbage out of a trash can? What was your upbringing like?
Absolutely. Raised by a single mom, was born in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
And then when I was 13, I moved to Tampa, Florida. So I am a native. I tell myself that I am a native Floridian. I've lived in Florida almost my entire life, except for a couple other places that I've lived. So I grew up in Tampa, went to high school there, went 2 years to a small liberal arts college in Kentucky.
Okay.
And then 2 years later transferred to Florida State University and graduated with a BS in psychology in 1984.
All right. So Golden Knolls in 1984, you graduated from FSU.
I did.
Wow. So we're on campus right now. How's it changed since 1984?
Tremendously. It's awesome. But I've also had two children who graduated from FSU. So I'm a lifelong Seminole and have been back to campus in recent years. But it's been a little while. So it's grown, and it's great to be back.
No, that's awesome. So being an entrepreneur, usually somebody has some sort of entrepreneurial like influence in their life or something like that. Did you have that in your life? Did you have some sort of entrepreneurial influence, or what made you start thinking, hey, I could be a CEO and start my own company?
It's crazy because I started out in corporate America. Never thought about entrepreneurship when I graduated from Florida State. Started with the Quaker Oats Company, was classically trained, and moved up the corporate ladder. And that's what I thought I would do. And all of a sudden, in about year 18, I started to get this entrepreneurial itch. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to report to people. I don't want to just shuffle paper. And I was downsized by a company in Atlanta. And I said, okay, I'm going to take my golden parachute and just jump out of the plane. So I didn't really have an influence. I just knew that I just didn't want to do the corporate thing anymore. And I was moving around a lot. And that's how you moved up back in those days. And I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. I loved Atlanta and spent 10 years there before I moved to Destin, and just decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I started my consulting business. But I've done a lot of different things entrepreneurial. I've been in real estate investment. I got into the restaurant business, unfortunately, for a little while.
It's a tough business.
It is. But always continued to consult and have my own consulting company. And then my clients are pretty much consumer packaged goods brands that I help. So I started out doing marketing and then transitioned into more of a sales role, which is what I was classically trained to do when I got out of school and was in corporate America. I was in sales during that whole 18-year career.
So when you talk about customer packaging? No, consumer packaging. Consumer packaging. Sorry about that. I was I got caught up there for a second.
No
really unpack that. Like, what day to day, what does that mean? What kind of company is going to come to you? What services are you going to supply? Just tell us about like your business model.
Yeah. So I started out working with larger brands and helping them once they got on the shelf. And so since then, for probably about 10 years, I've been in what they call natural products, things that you would find at a Whole Foods or a Sprouts. So then all of a sudden, about 10 years ago, my passion really became for small emerging brands. So brands who are just getting started, So I work with a lot of brand founders who have this idea, but have no idea how to get on the shelf at a Publix or a Whole Foods or a Winn-Dixie. So I have a passion for that. So started helping them with sales. So calling on retailers, like I said, like a Publix, like a Whole Foods, like a Sprouts. So I do handle retailers or meet with retailers on the East Coast as well as the West Coast and Texas. So wherever somebody needs help, I help them get on the shelf, because they have, most of the time, they don't have any idea how, and they don't know how much it costs to get on the shelf at a retailer.
So one of the services that you offer is essentially you have a network of retailers, and you're able to leverage that network for emerging brands and get them on the shelf.
Yeah, and it's been very difficult with retailers because their buyers are always changing. But for, like, example, everybody in your podcast would know Publix. I know what Publix is looking for. I know what a buyer, maybe not that specific buyer, but what a buyer is looking for, and how to do business with Publix, how to get on their portal, how to submit a new item form, make sure that you have the right packaging, you have a UPC, all of those things. So I do a lot of tactical things as far as selling goes, but I also do a lot of coaching, explaining to these small emerging brands who have a great idea. A lot of them have great ideas. They typically start selling locally at their farmer's market, and they think they have this, believe they have this great idea. My mom loves it. Right. I have the best tasting chocolate chip cookie ever, and I want to get it on shelves at, again, picking on Publix. I want to get it on shelves in Publix, but I have no idea how.
Yeah, no, I have some experience in that. I'm the founder of Red Eye Coffee here in Tallahassee, just a regional brand. I sold it years ago, but Whole Foods actually approached us, the local Whole Foods, and put us in Whole Foods and did a display for us and everything. And
Great.
As the founder, I was like, oh, this is great. This is totally easy. So then I went to Publix and like just hit a brick wall and just didn't know what to do, and then found out wow, it's actually
a lot harder.
It's a lot harder than I thought. One of our big wins was we had a beer distributor here in Tallahassee pick up our packaged ready-to-drink cold brew coffee and distributed it through their network, and that was really great. They did all the heavy lifting for us, but we never got into Publix.
Yeah, it's very hard, and Publix is a great retailer, just a great retailer, but their followers, they're not really leaders, so it's not somewhere typically where you go to launch a small emerging brand that no one has ever heard of or is brand new. They're looking for traction. Yeah. So one of the other things I would share with the audience today is a lot of times my clients and my brands start out direct to consumer, website, selling on Amazon.
Yeah, that's the way we were.
Yeah, and then as you get traction, then you have sales numbers to show to a buyer to say, hey, I'm doing $1 million now. I'm $1 million brand online. Now I want your customers maybe looking for my brand. You want to put this on your shelf.
Yeah. I've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like Publix has become more open to local brands. Like at my local Publix now, it's just an end cap, but it's like an end cap of local brands, which I think that's relatively, in the past few years, relatively new to them.
Yes, because they're following Whole Foods. So Whole Foods has what they call local foragers in different markets who are looking for local brands, and Whole Foods has a local brand program all across the country. Yeah. And they have local, what they call a forager, looking for regional, small emerging brands. So Publix and other retailers saw that and have mimicked it.
Yeah, no, it was really exciting for us when Whole Foods contacted us. We really thought, oh, wow, we've made it big time, but it really didn't turn out to be that much. But it was very nice and it was cool. It was interesting. The brand perception of our customers completely changed once they could buy our product in Whole Foods. They just thought about us at a whole different level.
Absolutely. And Whole Foods has also changed a lot since being bought by Amazon. So that whole thing has process and how they go to business has changed quite a bit.
Oh, I bet.
Since the early days of Whole Foods.
What Do you help with package design, or like really what is it 100% like you're basically consulting on how to get into get shelf space and things like that?
Yeah. So look at me as an outsourced sales manager, VP of sales, something like that, where the founder, it's his idea. They're working and spending time on package design, marketing, leveraging logistics, how to ship the product, things like that. So a lot of my clients start out trying to do sales and they realize, because everybody thinks sales is easy. Like I just go tell my story to a retailer. And while your story, your brand story is really important, it's way more complicated, as you found out, than that. That's what I do. So I'm an extra set of hands or an outsourced sales manager, VP of sales, whatever you want to call me.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. So you said that your passion is more emerging brands now, and it sounded like more like holistic, or you said natural. I'm not sure if
natural products.
When you say natural, are you exclusively organic, or is it
good for you products?
All right, good for you products.
Yes.
And so when you think about what you do now and your passion, and what would be an ideal client? If somebody's listening right now, explain like who would contact you, who could you help?
So a brand that's had some success, D2C, direct to consumer website or Amazon, so you have some traction.
When you say that, just are we talking $500,000, $1 million?
Yeah, if you've done $500,000 to $1 million, you're doing really well.
Okay.
And you're ready to go to a brick and mortar retailer. That's where I can help you. I also really encourage new and emerging brands to start small. So you don't want to go to Walmart or Target first,
right?
Because that's a big mistake. That costs a lot of money, even just from a production standpoint. So I always encourage my brands to start in their region. So if you're a Northeast brand, start in New York and Massachusetts and Vermont and all that, and then grow out from there. Like I said, I do a lot of coaching and consulting where a lot of brands come to me and say, okay, where do I start? And they'll ask me, where's your best relationship with these retailers? And so I help them with that as well, because I do have relationships. I've been in the industry for 30 plus years, so I do know some buyers and I can get into some regional retailers, but I don't tell my brands I can get you in.
Right.
They'll call me and go, can you get me into Walmart? No. Can I get you into Target? No. So those bigger retailers, a Walgreens, a CVS, a Walmart, a Target, those are very specific retailers, and they have a specific way of going to business. And there are brokers who are former buyers at Walmart or Target that left those retailers, and now they help brands get in there because they have those relationships and they know how those brands or how that retailer goes to market.
I've heard stories, and I'm sure that you could probably share some, of brands who I can think of one particular brand who went bankrupt because they got into Costco, and then just they got so over leveraged that they actually had to sell their company because, and you don't think about this as an entrepreneur, but they just couldn't keep up with demand, and they couldn't do quality control anymore, and it completely destroyed their brand. Is that a one-off, or is that something
very typical? Costco is another great retailer. So they require now that their business with a brand is no more than 20% of their business. And that is put in place to help brands, like you just mentioned, not get overextended, because it takes money to make product.
Right.
Not just to mention all the other things like you mentioned, quality control and logistics, shipping. You really got to know what you're doing. And Costco is another big retailer that you really need to know how they go to market and how they market themselves and what is their margin that they require. They really make most of their money on membership. They don't make money on selling product.
Really? That's interesting. I know their margins are very small. Yeah, and it makes it really challenging for people who are trying to sell products and stuff to make a profit. I mean, you think, oh, I've got into Costco, I've made it, or I've got into Walmart and I've got it made. But you got to have your business model down pat, or there's a good chance that it's gonna kill your business.
I preach a lot to my clients that it's not about sell in, which is getting it on the shelf. It's about sell through. You don't make any money, and the retailer doesn't make any money if the product doesn't come off the shelf and get into someone's basket. So a lot of brands, again, celebrate, oh, I got into Walmart, or I got into Target. That's when the hard work really starts, because that's when your marketing has to kick in and your brand awareness, getting trial. You really have to have a robust marketing plan to get that product off the shelf, just getting on it. And retailers are becoming much more strict. You really have about a 6-month window to prove yourself. And if you don't, you'll be gone. And then the retailer, and I preach this to my clients as well, no one likes to talk about the cost of failure, but if your product doesn't make it and it's discontinued, the retailer will mark down that product at your expense, at the brand's expense, and then ship it back to you, also at your expense. And now you have all this product that you don't know what to do or is going to go out of date.
Yeah, especially like in a brand like mine had an expiration date on it, and that was something coming back was the absolute worst.
Yes.
So I get that.
Very expensive proposition.
I'm a professor in the College of Entrepreneurship, and obviously I work with a lot of emerging entrepreneurs and a lot of emerging beverage brands and all sorts of different B2C brands and things like that. What are some of the things, as say that they get some traction and they're selling online, or maybe they're doing pop-up and things like that, how do they get to that next level where they really have a solid business model, or they think they have a solid business model, but now they need to scale in order to get into these bigger retailers and things like that? What are some of the ways that you've seen people do that's worked? And then also, what are some of the ways that seem like they're going to work, but usually do not?
So I think the biggest thing is get traction online, like we talked about, direct to consumer. Make sure you have a good product story, so you have a great story to tell, and that you have some kind of differentiation. So we always talk on our podcast about, you don't want to be the 11th brand of gluten-free chocolate chip cookies.
Right.
Even though your mom and your sister and your uncle say they are the best tasting cookies they've ever had, that's not really enough. And I think the other thing, to be successful, you need to be extremely well-funded. This is a long process to get onto the shelf. And like I mentioned, it's not about sell in, it's about sell through. So you have to have a robust marketing plan to pull that. We call it a demand plan. So a buyer these days is going to look at, okay, how many Instagram followers do you have? Are you on Facebook? How many people are visiting your website each day or each month? How much are you selling on Amazon? And then pricing is really critical as well. I help a lot of my clients make sure that they're actually making money, that they have enough margin to pay. So most retailers charge to get on their shelf.
Oh, really?
So, yes, so it's either a lump sum or they ask for what they call in the business a free fill. So when you get on the shelf as a new brand, that first case you get on the shelf, you don't make any money on.
Well, that's one thing that, like with Red Eye, that we learned very quickly when we started getting into Whole Foods, and then we had somebody distributing our ready-to-drink cold brew and everything, that it was really hard on our cash flow. There was a huge lag from actually buying, making, paying for, shipping the product before we actually got that cash flow in, and it was very difficult to manage.
Absolutely.
And I would say that we didn't do it well. It didn't kill us, but it definitely wasn't what we thought it was going to be. What's the typical lag time, and how would a B2C person, is there a formula of how much money you need to have in reserve to be able to cover that lag, or what kind of advice could you give our retailers?
So I guess the number one advice I would tell brand founders is make sure you have enough margin in your product to help with terms. Retailers, so mostly it's 30 days, as you probably learned. Some retailers are 60 days, like a Walmart. you don't get paid for 60 days. If you're at Walgreens, for example, they take new products on consignment. So they only pay you when the product actually sells through, then they'll pay you for it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you've got to have enough cash flow, but pricing and understanding your cost of goods, and then understanding that the retailer is going to expect you to support the brand.
Right.
You see those yellow tags like at Whole Foods or TPRs. Those aren't funded by the retailer. Those are funded by the brand. Now you have Amazon Prime on top of that. So one thing I would tell, any small emerging brand is the retailers don't pay for anything. So shipping the product, that's up to you. You have to ship the product to them and pay for that. You have to wait for you to get paid according to their terms. All of that is not negotiable in a contract with a retailer. And a lot of small emerging brands don't realize that. So if your pricing is right and you have a 70 to 80% margin, at the end of the day, you're probably going to end up with a 30% margin after you pay all your shipping costs, your slotting, your TPR fees, all of that stuff. The ad at Publix, they don't pay for that. The brand does.
Speaking of Publix, and if you can't answer this question, I'm sure you know the answer, but I don't know. So they have their BOGOs that they're running all the time. Are the product producers eating that, or
Yes.
does Publix participate?
No, I just actually got a brand into Publix, and we offered 4 BOGOs, and that is paid for, and that is a 50% price reduction that the brand pays for.
Yeah, when I walk through Publix and I see all these BOGOs, and then there's some products I see they do BOGOs a lot, and I'm just coming from that background, I'm like, I don't understand how the margin is there. At least with our margins at Red Eye, if we did a BOGO, we would lose money on every purchase.
Absolutely, yeah. So you have to figure that into your cost. And typically, in this instance where I sold this ice cream brand the buyer asked for 4 BOGOs during the year, and that's all funded by the brand, and it's not, we'll lower our margin during that time frame.
They don't.
They want to make the same exact margin, and it's great if you're a consumer. I love BOGOs. I shop at Publix.
Yeah.
But for the brand, you have to be able to absorb those costs.
Yeah, that's interesting because I always wonder that just as an entrepreneur. I'm like, how does this work? Because I know the finance of this doesn't work. Like economically for the brand, this does not work. And I was wondering, do they just chalk it up to marketing or something like that?
Rule of thumb, Mark, the retailer doesn't pay for anything.
Okay. Gotcha. I want to switch gears and talk about your podcast a little bit, Road to Retail. Funny enough, I just had another podcast on here called Road to Open. It's a sports brand and open play in like tennis and soccer and stuff is like the highest levels. His whole thing is a volleyball brand, Road to Open. So your Road to Retail, and you've got over 100 episodes out there. Tell me about how you started it. What's the podcast about? How does that podcast support what you do as a brand?
Would love to. So this is definitely a passion of mine. So my co-founder, Bruce Montgomery, and I started this during COVID. That was a really hard time for consumer packaged goods, obviously. And I called Bruce one day and I said, hey, what are you doing? He said, nothing. I said, me either. I said, let's start a podcast. And Bruce said, what's that? And I said, let's start. So we started doing a few webinars and things like that. And then it morphed into this podcast. And again, it's really centered around our passion for helping small emerging brands. So we started out 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, and interviewing brand founders to talk about their struggles, their story, how they got into it, things like that. We also interview investors. So if a brand that needs to raise money, what do investors look for? What's in a pitch deck? Things like that. And then we interview brokers, we interview other suppliers who support and help consumer packaged goods brands. So again, over 120 episodes, and we love doing it. We started out posting once a week, and we've just grown it, and it's our labor of love. We have a few sponsors, and
nice.
We're going to continue to do it. And we just did our first live event last week in Dallas. So we had 4 people come on the show, and we partnered with one of our agencies that had been on the show. And so we had 4 local Dallas people come. 2 were brands to tell their story, had an investor, and then somebody that supports the consumer packaged goods industry. So a little bit of everything. So it was fun to actually do a live interview.
No, that's really cool. Has it been a good funnel for your main business, a client funnel? Or what's the value to you personally doing the podcast?
Building my brand, building a brand, being known in the industry. It has not translated into business yet, into clients, because we don't sell anything on the show. We don't say, oh yeah, if you want help, come. We don't do that. We give everything away free. We have a website. We also attend industry events, a food show or a trade event. We do that and we cover that, and then we'll do a podcast about that. So that's one of our goals. We pretty much monetizing it by the supporters that we have for the show that come on.
Yeah, I haven't had to get any sponsors for this show since FSU owns it, and they pay for everything, including me. So
there you go.
I haven't had to. I actually would like the experience, though. We've actually had guests like, can I advertise on your show? And it's FSU doesn't really do that and everything. But so I haven't had that experience, and I have a sales streak in me, so I kind of want to. Could I sell something? But it's not mine to sell.
I get you. It's funny. Yeah, like I said, we have about 4 or 5 sponsors, and we're just really trying to help small emerging brands, and so everything we do we give away for free. But if somebody does call and say, hey, I need some help, of course we would certainly help them, and we won't help them for free.
Yeah, definitely. And if you have a product out there, audience, all the contact information will definitely be in the show notes, so you'll be able to contact Tracy and his team so they can too get you into different retailers. A lot of entrepreneurs, especially beginning entrepreneurs, listen to this show, and all sorts of different brands and things like that over the years. And I always really like to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the challenges that brands have faced, because that's the kind of stuff that people don't see. They see that you're on a podcast and they think there's money falling out of your pockets and you're just your private jet's just outside waiting for you. And that's normally, for a few entrepreneurs, that might be the case, but for most of us, it's not. What are some of the challenges that you faced, and what is the innovation mindset? So we like to talk about like mindset issues. What kind of mindset do you feel is necessary to get through those hard times? And do you have any kind of like mindset tricks that get you up in the morning and keep you positive and make you go out and make that next call?
Absolutely. So I think the one thing that advice I would give, be willing to pivot. I learned this I can't remember the book I read early on in my entrepreneurial career, but the thing I really told myself a lot was, don't go down with the plane, be willing to pivot. And I was in the restaurant business for a very short amount of time. I realized very early on this was not going to work, and I sold them and jumped out of the plane, luckily, and landed on my feet. So I think being willing to pivot. And just like during COVID, buyers weren't meeting with brands at all. Right. They were trying to keep product on the shelf, and they stopped all meetings. In-person meetings stopped altogether. And they learned that I can talk to people via Zoom or Google Meets or whatever, Microsoft Teams, so I don't have to meet with people. So that was another big change in our industry. So you have to be willing, I think, really to be willing to pivot. And I think the other thing is, my advice would be always be learning. Okay. So when I started the podcast, I had no idea anything about podcasts. But what I did learn was you can learn to do anything on YouTube.
You can.
right?
100%.
I spent one Christmas holiday watching YouTube videos and creating a YouTube channel and getting equipment and things like that. And I've learned later on in life, I really enjoy learning. And so always be learning and learning something. And I'm always learning about our podcast and what we can do better, how I can edit it. My new thing that I'm passionate about and wanting to learn is about AI.
Okay. Very good. Do you use any AI products to help edit your podcast? What do you use?
I use Perplexity. I use Claude.
Okay.
Yeah. And the one that I really love is one that actually will create clips for me. So
what's that?
I'm trying to remember the name. It'll come to me in a second. But Opus Clips.
Oh, okay. Opus.
Yep. So I use that. So I'm learning how to make our podcast because we do everything on Zoom. We don't do live.
Okay.
Making it look shiny and professional and sound good and things like that. So again, I'm learning all about AI and how that can help me as a tool to make a better podcast.
Yeah, AI has been huge for this podcast. Just implementing these AI tools has just rocketed our exposure out there just exponentially. We use a product called Descript, and it does all the reels for us. It does the show notes. It does like all this stuff that I used to do manually.
Took hours.
It took hours and hours.
Correct.
Now it does it very quickly, which is translated to allow me to do more podcasts and to enjoy doing them more. I'm not just like editing all the time and and so that's been a great plus. And what I love is AI is getting better and better every single week. Like it seems like Descript is putting out a new kind of like update, and they've linked to Google VO, I think it is, which helps with B-roll now. And I haven't implemented this. Maybe I'll do it with this episode, but it'll actually listen to what we're talking about, and I can have it like create some sort of B-roll that shows what we're talking about and things like that. It's coming along. I actually had somebody contact me asking me what AI software we use to get rid of the ums and all of that. And I was like, oh, is it that obvious? Maybe we're just eloquent. We don't have any I call it word graffiti, ums, all that, and everything. But yeah, it definitely makes it a lot easier to listen to and makes everybody sound a lot more eloquent than we are. But that one thing I love about AI and AI tools, the way I look at AI and AI tools, it allows you to do the stuff that you really love and be more creative. Like I know a lot of people, and there's a lot of professors and everything, it's, we're just dumbing people down and they're not doing the work and everything. And I look at it the opposite of, actually, I'm doing more and better work because I don't have to labor doing the stuff that I actually really don't like to do. I like talking to people. Right. I don't necessarily want to go through and take out you do, Tracy. So I'm glad that AI.
I'm trying not to.
No, well, it's all right. AI will take it out, so it won't be there. And it's probably smart enough. It was funny. I was talking about this on a different show, and I ran through, and our AI actually knew not to take out the ums when I was talking about the ums. I was like, wow, that is really clever that it actually knew that wasn't word graffiti, that I was actually using intentionally. So we'll see how it does with that little. I'm giving it a test.
There you go.
Now.
I love it. I love it.
There we go. There's another that won't be there. As I said, a lot of students and everybody and a lot of entrepreneurs listen to this show. And I like to ask the question of every guest at the end of the show that if you could go back, I believe you started your business in 2002.
That's correct.
So if you could go back and talk to Tracy in 2001 or right before you started your business, and you were allowed to tell yourself one thing that was going to help you with your business trajectory and be more successful, what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to always be learning. That's what I would tell myself, because back then it was just a business to make money, to support my family. I had 3 young kids at the time, and I would also think about sometimes I tell myself, I really wish I would have started my entrepreneurial career in my 20s, that I would have had more time to make mistakes and rebound from them. I started my entrepreneurial career when I was in my 40s with three kids. Making mistakes in a business are costly.
Yeah,
especially
mistakes
at that age.
Are a lot higher.
Exactly. I wish I would have, but I didn't have the entrepreneurial bug at that point. I was a corporate guy coming out of FSU, and I got a great job. I got a company car, a great salary, and I'm like, this is awesome. And for 18 years, it was great. And then all of a sudden, I think the switch flipped, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, and I want to learn and do all kinds of different things. That's one of the things I think I learned about myself is I'm a multitasker. I don't want to do just one thing.
Yeah.
Just like I have my SMP business and I help small emerging brands, but I have my podcast and I'm investing in and helping other AI companies within the consumer products goods industry. And I'm coaching them and counseling them. So I love all those kinds of things, but I just realized in my 40s, I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life. And that, I don't know how that switch flipped, but it did.
Yeah, no, that's great. People ask me all the time, what's the difference between business college and entrepreneurship college, and who should go into what? And I said, if you want to manage a department in a company like a marketing department, then definitely go to the College of Business. That is a great path. But if you want to learn how to do everything and be responsible, and you like making decisions, you like being a lifelong learner, and you're not that risk adverse, then entrepreneurship is definitely your path.
Absolutely.
So cool. Tracy, thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your story and about your podcast. Again, all the contact information for Tracy will be in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset Podcast, powered by the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship. Hey, if you like this episode, be sure to give us and hey, you know what? Hit that subscribe button so you never miss another amazing episode. We'll catch you next time.